Hi and welcome to my channel. Today I wanted to do a story in honor of my youngest child's birth and pregnancy. Today, well, 2 weeks ago was her first birthday, and we finally got around to doing her party. It was a small party. We're still kind of staying back away from large crowds and a lot of people just due to COVID in our area. It's been a pretty busy couple weeks, so finally I said we're gonna do a party, and she got some gifts. It was a really sweet time, and I got it on video, which I will show you at the end of this story about her birth and my pregnancy with her. By the time I got pregnant with I was ready to have a third child, I was pretty settled. I was pretty ready to have a baby. I know they say you're never fully ready, but I do think there are times where you're more ready than others. And I was definitely ready to have a baby by that point. We had moved into our house. We had a good routine. I felt pretty confident in my parenting ability. So I was ready for a third child. So sometime around April or May of 2019, we actually got off birth control, and it took about 6 months for my body to get back into a normal groove, and we just kept trying and kept trying, but we just weren't getting pregnant. And so for Christmas, my mother-in-law got me one of those little ovulation kits from Amazon. It comes in a pink box. I don't have it anymore because it expired, but I did the ovulation one in January of 2020, and I did end up getting pregnant, but it was just a really odd pregnancy because normally, like, I can tell when I'm pregnant, whereas with this one I didn't really know. Maybe I don't know, maybe I was just too invested in the process of detecting my ovulation and anticipating it to really know, or to really feel it. But anyway, so about, I think 4 weeks after, or I did the math, and I think it was about 3 weeks after I should have been pregnant. I took a test, or it was the earliest they said they could do it. I don't remember exactly, but I do remember doing the math, and it kept coming back negative. And so I called my doctor, and she did a test, and they're like, yes, you're pregnant. And I was so excited, but they said it was really early because the hormones weren't as strong, or the count. I don't remember exactly what she said, but they could tell that it was extremely early. So we waited a few weeks, and then I went in when I thought I would have been about 6 weeks pregnant, but 8 weeks pregnant, when I thought I was 8 weeks pregnant. But the ultrasound said I was only 6 weeks pregnant, and my doctor was really confused, and she said, well, you must have gotten pregnant on the 25th instead of the 15th. And I said, but I tracked my ovulation. I don't know what happened. At the end of the day, I was 6 weeks along, and they said that the earlier ultrasounds are actually more accurate than the later ultrasounds. So, and we had a pretty normal pregnancy up until about week 16 to 18, and that was kind of scary for my doctor because I was not gaining weight like I normally should have, and I was really sick past the normal time that I'm sick. So usually I'm pretty sick the first trimester, and magically around week 11 to 13 my nausea goes away. I don't feel sick anymore. I have good energy, but this time it just didn't go away. And so and I wasn't gaining weight, and I was talking to my doctor, and I said, I'm throwing up in the morning, like violently throwing up. And a lot of it, I think, is because she thinks basically we were still vegan at the time, meaning we only ate plant-based foods. We didn't eat any meat, any dairy, anything that came from an animal. We didn't eat it. And so she was like, you really need to start eating more protein because your body's just not getting what it needs. And so I started eating eggs again, and I started eating chicken nuggets. Those were the only two animal products I could stomach. And even then, I had to cover them with something. Like eggs I covered with salsa or ketchup, and the chicken nuggets I covered with, the frozen chicken nuggets I covered with ranch dressing. The other thing that happened is After my second pregnancy and birth, I had a lot of back pain, like horrible shooting back pain. And I had to go to physical therapy, and I found out through that I have a rotated pelvis, and it just means that my pelvis is not like a healthy pelvis will sit at the same angle. Mine's a little bit off. And so I wanted to go and get help early, because so that way I didn't have a lot of pain, which I still end up having a lot of pain, but it wasn't as bad as it could have been. So they sent me to a physical therapist, actually a pelvic floor specialist, and she was amazing. A really sweet lady, and she really helped me understand like the exercises and why we do them. I did a lot of this before. I took the classes for it. I just didn't really stick with it. But going through this with her really helped me to understand, oh, this is why we do this. And so I went along, and we were doing really, really good up until about 6 months into it. And at 6 months, I actually lost 5 pounds, which really freaked my doctor out. I don't know how that happened, because we literally had just gotten back from vacation and we ate like the worst diet ever. But I think over time I did steadily start gaining more and more weight. The other thing that I really wanted with this pregnancy was to go into labor naturally. And so I was determined that I was going to stick it out no matter how much it sucked. And so, but I got really whiny, and I called my doula a lot. I'm like, what about this and what about that? And I was so upset. And finally she gave me this book called Hypnobabies. And then she gave me she let me borrow the CDs that go along with it. And I read the book, and I'm one of those people that I really want to understand what I'm going through. I think that most people can go through a class on how to have a baby unmedicated, and they just figure it out. And I'm not that person. I need to know, what is my body doing? Why is it doing this? And how does the whole thing work? And I read through that book at 36 weeks, and after having done that, I think that book is what got me through labor, because just understanding how visualization and self-hypnosis works was so helpful. Understanding how contractions happen, understanding fear, tension, pain, understanding all that. I don't know, something about reading that book just made a huge difference for me. And so that book is probably the single most reason I got through labor naturally. So flash forward, we hit week 40. We hit week 41. And my doctor's like, okay, well, if you don't, basically my due date was, I would have been 42 weeks, I think on a Wednesday. Was it Wednesday? I don't know. Whatever day would have been 42 weeks. Like the only appointment they had was like 2 days after that. And so our doula was like, hey, listen, if you're not in labor, if you don't have this baby next week, which would have been week 42, you're going to be talking about an induction on Friday, which was my next appointment. And so I didn't want that. And I was like, oh man, I really hope I go into labor. And then the weekend went by. We had a trunk or treat event, because it was around Halloween. We had the trunk or treat at my church. And then that night, and you know, we go home, we had a normal night, we would go to bed, and around it was exactly midnight. I looked at my phone and it said 12:00. At exactly midnight, I started feeling these little surges in my stomach. And I thought, oh hey, I think this is it. And so I went back to sleep, and then around 1, I woke up again, and it was a little bit more this time. And so I called my doula and I said, hey, I think I'm in labor. And she said, okay, well, then what you should do is lay back down until you can't, and try to get some sleep until you can't handle it anymore, and then give me a call. And I did that. And I think I woke up around 3. And I got everyone's stuff ready. I got my girl stuff packed, because I hadn't even packed. I think with my third one, I was like, we'll just do it when it comes time. I didn't want to pack. I didn't want to do anything. So by the time that happened, by 3 o'clock, I thought, oh my God, I got to get the girls packed. So like I got the girls packed, I didn't want to wake them up yet, so I got my husband's breakfast because he was going to have to drive the girls across town because it was like an hour round trip to drop the girls off. I called my friend that was supposed to take the girls and left a message. I'm guessing she was still asleep. Got the girls packed. Semi got us packed. Got my husband's breakfast ready. Got his coffee made. Woke him up. Woke one child up, and I'm still like in labor, by the way. Like I'm still having contractions, and I'm going through like all the stuff that I learned in Hypnobabies, pausing long enough to go through a contraction. And I mean, we had some pretty good rolling contractions for a while. And then so I wake my oldest up, get her breakfast, and it was this cereal that she really liked. Not the healthiest cereal, but she liked it, and I just wanted this to be an easy morning. So got her fed, got her in some warm clothes, got her shoes on, and did the same for my second. We loaded them in the car and he took off. And I called my doula as well somewhere in there, and she was like, okay, well, I'm on my way. And I got in the shower. I think I like got in the bathtub and hung out in there for a little while. And she's a really fun person. I really enjoy her. And so I love having babies with her. She's just a really fun person. And so we were just having a good old time. We were laughing in between contractions. And so probably around 8 or 9, I laid down on the couch and I was sleeping, and my contractions were pretty good, but I could still like semi-sleep through them and then just kind of go in and out as the contractions came. But then around noon, my contractions stopped. And so we waited about an hour and nothing changed. So we went for a walk trying to, you know, get this ball rolling again, and nothing. So my doula called a friend of hers who's a chiropractor, and she is skilled in the Webster practice, which I think is like for pregnant women. And so we went there and she adjusted me, and within like 10 minutes we were on the fast track. In fact, our doula was actually gonna try to run to an appointment real fast, but she got like halfway there and said, I think I'm gonna go back, because she saw how I was. So she got home, she came back, and my contractions were just rolling and rolling. And right around 5 o'clock, I started feeling this pressure in my pelvis, and it was radiating out. And I thought, we need to go. No, this was at 5, and it just kept coming. And around 6, I said, no, we need to go, like now. And so like we jump in there, I'm in the back of the car, I'm like, you know, freaking out. And we get to the hospital. My husband dropped us off and went to go park the car, and our doula and I were walking in, and this poor lady, I think it was her first day as a volunteer greeter lady person who gives you information on how to get to where you're going in the hospital. And right as we walked in, I just hit this really hard contraction, and I like fell against the wall like, ah. And she's just like, are you okay? Are you okay? Do you need a wheelchair? She didn't even know what to do. I felt so bad for her, and I'm like, do I need to put my mask on? And she just looked like a deer in headlights. Like she didn't know what hit her, because here I am looking like I'm about to have a baby right there. And then I'm like, do I need my mask? Like just, she didn't know what to do. So we ended up getting to the labor and delivery unit, and I was just hanging out with the nurses. We were laughing, having a good old time. And then they get me in the room, and that's when it all went downhill, because I just don't like hospitals. I think what happens is I just get overwhelmed with trying to have a baby, and there's so much going on. You know, I had nurses coming at me, asking me questions. You failed this test, so you have to have an IV in your hand, which I did not want, and they wouldn't let me refuse it. They like are shoving stuff up my nose, or asking me questions, or like, let's see how far along you are. It's just a lot to have a baby. And listen, I get it. I understand. I'm not anti-hospital. I'm not. But I think next time we have a baby, I'm just going to do it at home with a midwife, because I just kind of want to have a baby without being poked and prodded and people putting things in places I don't want them. And so, but it really was a good experience. But I just think for me personally, I feel a loss of control in a hospital environment that maybe other people they don't feel that way. And We're in the room. I'm trying to push her out. I was on the bed, off the bed, on the bed, off the bed, changing positions. And there's like 20 people in there. And when I got to the hospital, I think it was around 8 or 9 centimeters. And I stayed there for like an hour and a half. We're trying to push her out. She wasn't coming. My water broke when they did the cervical check, and she had a bowel movement, and they were like really worried about her. They kept checking her heart rate. I was trying to push her out, but I just couldn't get her out, and they couldn't even see her. And so here I am trying to push out a baby in like very much a state of undress. There's 20 people in the hospital, or 20 people in the room. There's some guy over there. I'm like, who is he? Why is there a man in this room? And they're like, oh, that's respiratory therapy because you, I guess because she'd had a bowel movement, they called him in because they were worried about her getting maybe something in her, like an infection in her lungs. And I just, it was over for me. I'm like, I don't even care anymore. Give me drugs, give me a C-section. I'm done. And it was after that our doctor was like, you're gonna have to, they did the heartbeat, and her heartbeat dropped from, I think 120, which is normal, down to 50. And our doctor's like, you gotta push her out. You have to push her out. I'm like, I've been pushing for an hour and a half. I don't know what you want from me. And she has worked with our doula many times, and so they have a pretty good relationship. And she's like, Pam, I don't even see the baby. And like, it was like everyone was just standing there in the room waiting for something to happen. You know, they're just like, okay. And finally, our doula, I felt really bad for her because I knew she's very respectful of moms. She's very, you know, what do you want me to do? What's your choice? You know, she's very respectful. But I think just given the situation, she kind of just took her hand and pushed the baby under my pelvis, as she calls it. And I think she felt really bad because normally she would ask permission, but she just kind of did it given the situation. And that's when she came out. Well, that's when she started coming out. And I was like, I don't remember. It's like I was there, but I wasn't there. And I think she pushed her under and she came out, but then I heard my doctor say, oh, she has shoulder dystocia. And I think she felt really bad too, because she apologized later, but I guess she had to like go up inside and like move some things around and to get the baby out. And she finally came out, and I think her color was kind of off. They handed her to me. Her little chest was sucking where it was pulling in, and that's not normal. And I was just looking at her like, oh my God, what just happened? Because I was in shock. I heard myself scream really loud. I felt bad for my husband because he just didn't know what to do. You know, he felt pretty helpless. But she was out and she was safe. And so I said, okay, well, y'all just take her, cut the cord, do what you need to do, and get her. So they took her and they were like vacuuming her lungs and doing all the stuff they needed to do with her. And I went and I just took a really quick shower because I just needed a minute to deal with everything. But basically they said that it was enough that they wanted to put her in NICU for at least 24 hours. They released her after 24 hours. I think in other hospitals they said that they would have kept her for 48 just because of protocol. But she came back with me after like 24 and she was okay. She was good. Everything went normal. And yeah, we were released after, I think I had her on a Monday and we got home on Wednesday afternoon. So anyway, that is my story with number 3. And now I'm going to show you the birthday party, the very short but sweet birthday party that we had for Mary Jo. Thank you for watching.